Xin chào quý vị. Welcome to session 2 of module 1 of the Industry Intelligence training. Session 2 is looking at the question of what is industry intelligence? In this session, we'll look at what is industry intelligence. We'll look at the different data sources that form the basis of an industry intelligence model. We'll look at the purpose of collecting industry intelligence, the purpose of gathering and analysing information to understand and, where possible, predict the logistics environment with all available knowledge. We'll look at where data comes from and what it can tell us and what it means for our planning purposes, planning around capital investment, process improvement, skills needs. We'll see how industry intelligence plays a really important role in development of industry responses. We're going to look at industry intelligence as a collection, analysis and distribution process. It's one thing to be collecting data, but we need to be able to understand the data. We need to be able to make sense of it. And importantly, we need to be able to present it and package it for the intended audiences that need to use that data for their planning and programmatic purposes. It's important to remember that industry intelligence refers to both qualitative and quantitative data. They're both complementary streams of data collection within a good industry intelligence model. We're going to look at the question of why we need industry intelligence. There's a number of reasons. It's really important in maintaining the content of occupational standards that we understand that what we're seeing in the workplace is accurately reflected in those occupational standards. This is essentially the what element of a good vocational education and training system. That is, occupational standards are largely developed on the basis of industry intelligence. For the delivery of training and assessment of training, or the how of the model, industry intelligence is relevant, particularly to understanding how we can respond in the vocational training sector to skills development needs. And industry intelligence is particularly important as well to influence the timing and volume of training, or the when of the VET model, so that the number of training places offered by training providers match industry skills demand. We're going to look at how industry intelligence works and who the users of its service are. We're going to look at the process of collecting data. We're going to look at how data can be used by individuals, by organisations, what it represents, how it can be packaged. And we're going to emphasise that industry intelligence is an iterative, ongoing process that seeks to reflect and capture the dynamism of change that occurs in the logistics sector. It's a great and important mechanism for keeping in touch and understanding the trends that are emerging in the sector. Industry intelligence has a really critical role to play in informing training package design. It does this by identifying skills gaps. It does this by identifying changes that are occurring in the workplace, particularly around the adoption of technology and new work practices. And it helps us understand enterprise labour needs. It also has really great value for regulators and stakeholders in the sector who are keen on observing emerging trends and being able to respond to those trends in a policy sense. It also provides a very useful longitudinal basis to monitor change within the sector. Industry intelligence is a critical element of the skills pipeline, and we're going to talk about the skills pipeline and the various components of that in some detail when we conduct the workshop online. But sufficient to say that the start of the skills pipeline process, when we look at skills identification, that really comes about through the process of industry intelligence collection. So at the essential starting point of the skills pipeline, we need a good industry intelligence model to understand what those skills that are emerging in the enterprise environment are. We're going to take you through the various different sources of industry intelligence. The essential point that we want to emphasize here is that there is no single data source that can provide the LARC with the quality or currency of information needed to inform the products and services of the VET system. A good industry intelligence system will rely on a range of credible data sources. These may include national or subnational statistical data, sectoral or occupational studies, surveys of employers and other groups, focus groups, roundtables, forums, and desk-based literature reviews. They are the essential elements, with some additions, of an industry intelligence model. We know that industry intelligence has great value for helping understand and identify emerging skills needs. It essentially can tell us what's happening in the workplace. It can also tell us why it's happening. Why are these changes occurring? Is it through capital investment, technology adoption? Maybe it's a reflection of changing demographics in the workforce. Industry intelligence can help us make sense of why, not just the what, but the why. It's important, I think, to understand and appreciate that industry intelligence really is the fuel that drives the industry intelligence or the industry-led model. It's essentially the fuel that drives the industry-led model. It's how the LARC remains relevant and of value to the logistics sector by producing data and knowledge and help the VET sector respond to the skills development needs of industry. We're going to take you through as well elements of the Australian model. We're going to show you how the Australian model operates, and we're going to ask you to compare and contrast the Australian model with what might form the basis of a suitable model in Vietnam. We'll take you through the history of industry intelligence, going back to its origins in the 1920s, in fact, in the Soviet Union, where industry intelligence systems and skills forecasting really first started to be used. They really grew in popularity as models after the Second World War as a means of helping veterans find work on return from their war service. And it was in the 1960s that we really started to see labour needs being linked closely to the education and training environment. The one thing to remember about industry intelligence models is that they are constantly evolving. They're iterative, which means they're repetitive. They're never static. They need constant maintenance. They need constant review for their currency and relevance. And this is why a systematic approach is needed, not relying on a single data source, but taking a systems-based approach so that we've got multiple means of collecting the type of information we need to make sense of the working environment that's evolving at the enterprise level. We use a number of data sources in Australia. We're going to take you through them. We have a combination of qualitative and quantitative data sources that we use. We rely a lot on the Australian Bureau of Statistics and government reports for base quantitative data. We use access to some specialist metadata aggregators like IBISWorld, IBIS World. We're going to take you through how we use these in Australia. We're going to take you through our qualitative data sources, our annual skills survey instrument, our calls for submission portal, the skills forums that we run, and the desktop-based research that we conduct around the year. We're going to show you some really important lessons learned from the Australian model. We're going to emphasise constantly that one size does not fit all when it comes to industry intelligence. We need a model that is adaptable and adoptable to the Vietnamese environment, and that's what we're going to help you build. We want you to recognise your limitations as well. Start small, take an incremental approach, start with a skill scan, build trust in the model, and develop research and data analysis capability. We need to appreciate that data is of no value if we can't make sense of it. So we need to have the research and data analysis capability to draw out those lessons and messages that are hidden in the data. We'll take you through a number of other lessons learned, the importance of testing and validating, qualifying our findings, and demonstrating results and value. And we're going to end session 2 with a focus on skill scans. They're a really useful mechanism for quickly and cost-effectively conducting a rapid assessment of emerging skills needs. And they could become the foundation tool, I think, of an industry intelligence model for Vietnam. We'll take you through this in some more detail when we meet in the online workshop. For the moment, let's leave it at this point. I want you to think about some of the issues that are raised in this pre-recorded session and bring those thoughts and queries to our online learning module, which will be session 2 of module 1. I look forward to hearing from you, discussing these issues further in our online module. And until then, let me say, cảm ơn và hẹn gặp lại.